From BLC Studios in Mankato, Minnesota, this is the Maverick Hockey Live Podcast, presented by Duncan, with your host, Shane Frederick.
This is the Maverick Hockey Live Podcast, presented by Duncan. I'm Shane Frederick, I'm the host, and joining me today is Minnesota State junior forward Sam Morton. How you doing today, Sam?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Great to have you here. Great to meet you today. As I was telling you earlier, know about half the players on the roster and meet some just coming in the podcast. So it's pretty good to get to know everybody. Congratulations on a great weekend for the Mavericks, sweeping St. Thomas in the first round of the CCHA playoffs. You had a big weekend. I think 3 goals, 2 assists. What was that weekend like for you guys? I know it was a little bit, probably a little too close for comfort on Friday with a 3-2 win, and then Saturday kind of won going away 8-2.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, we got a few guys in the lineup who haven't had any playoff experience, at least at the college level. So I think a few of our guys were just getting their toes wet and kind of just gaining some experience. So I think on Saturday we got a little more comfortable and definitely played better hockey on Saturday than Friday.
What's that like? I mean, you know, there's probably a little bit of human nature. You guys won the league. You're in first place. You had a lot of pretty one-sided games against St. Thomas, although if you had kind of looked at their schedule over the last month of the season, they definitely started playing teams a lot closer, but being a first-year Division I team, human nature kind of said, if people were making predictions, I don't think a lot of people would pick St. Thomas, but there you were in a close game Friday, down 1-0, down 2-1, having to come back in the third period, which you haven't had to do a lot this season against anybody. What was that like for you guys? Any nerves there?
Yeah, I mean, the past few games, even before playoffs, I think we went down a goal. So not that that's ever a bad thing, but we were pretty calm through it all just because we'd been there before. So yeah, like you said, it's human nature maybe to be a little overconfident going into a game like that. But I think that was something that we had brought up before the weekend started. And so it was something on our mind of, let's not be fat and happy right now. Like, let's be ready to go because that's a clean slate going into playoffs. So we're going to have to bring our best regardless of who we're playing. Yeah.
And obviously anytime you get in a situation where you're taking penalties and you got to put the kill out there and strange things happen. I know a guy loses his stick, things like that. It can, 5-on-3, it can be, suddenly hockey's a sport where that momentum can change pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just talking about this with Coach Hastings and just a little meeting, and he's talking about we got to be able to handle adversity, handle it, manage it, and overcome that kind of thing. And that's something that experienced teams do, and definitely takes some maturity to be able to handle the adversity. But it's something that you need to be able to do to win hockey games at the next level and important games.
It's probably good, right? I mean, if you do everything perfectly, that's great and everything, but to have that little bit of pressure on you and see how you respond to it can't really hurt, I think, at this time of the year, can it?
No, it's like things are going to happen, right? Not everything's going to go your way. So being able to stay calm and stay positive, I guess, and handle it to the best of our abilities is a skill that you almost need to practice, right? So
yeah, and that's a hard thing to practice, to add adversity to the mix and make it mean something. I mean, You can always do strange things in practice, I'm sure, or practice your 5-on-3 penalty kill or something like that. But, where there's, the stakes aren't really the same as when it's in a game.
Right. No, we talked about just being tired, battling through adversity, being tired is something that you can implement into practice and just in little ways, you know what I mean?
Yeah, how hard you want to go, and I'm sure that's a balance for the coaches this time of year. How much do you want to put your team's fatigue or beat up bodies, things like that? I mean, I wonder how many guys are actually 100% this time of year, just because it is a grind of a season, and you guys have had some tough games. I mean, last week's podcast, I had Nathan Smith, Julian Napravnik, and Cade Borchard on, and we were talking about the Michigan Tech series, and they talked about those boards up in Houghton and how hard those boards are and how stiff and they are. They don't have a lot of give to them. So you come out of that with 2 wins, feeling good, but also probably a little sore.
Yeah, I don't think any teams has everyone at 100%. There's definitely some banged up bodies on our team, but got to battle through it at this time of the year, you know what I mean? So
right.
There's not much you can do about it other than take care of your body away from the rink and show up ready to go.
Let me ask you just about this season in general, overall for you, how it's gone, your comfort level coming into this season. And last year you were new, you came in as a transfer, and we can get to that in a second. But just like the way this season has gone for you, is there a comfort level that maybe wasn't there at the beginning of last year, or that kind of had to feel your way into?
I want to say yes, but at the same time, you don't want to get too comfortable.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do feel like, especially with the group, I mean, everyone was really welcoming last year, but this year, like maybe taking on a little bit more leadership and helping other guys when they don't know what to do, whether that's in practice or how to handle situations in games. So just doing what you can to help the guys who have less experience. So I don't know if I would say comfort, but maybe just experience with what the expectations are and what our culture is.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense. And getting to last year, I have to ask you, at one point, I mean, just to let everybody know that Sam transferred to Minnesota State from Union, right? And where you started and played a year and a half, went back to junior hockey, and then came here.
Yep.
And I know there was some question about when you would be eligible, but I think COVID kind of changed things, or the late start of the season. You ended up being able to play right away last year. Is that right?
Yeah, I think I missed the first 6.
Okay.
And I remember Coach Hastings called me up to his office and he's like, hey, we just got word that you can be eligible because of some COVID rule. I don't know. Everything was crazy last year.
Right.
But he's like, is that something you're interested in? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Right. Sooner I can play, the better. I'd way rather play games than redshirt a full year. So no, yeah, that was super exciting. I was really excited for that.
And so you came in and obviously played quite a bit, and then had a big impact. Had a big impact at the end of the year in the regional. I think a lot has been made about your line with Ryan Sandlin and Brendan Furry, right? And you guys getting put together in that Quinnipiac game and having some success. And it seems like every time you get put back together, you guys get excited again.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely have some confidence within each other that we built off of last year, and we had some success earlier this year. So I think we're really, like you were talking about, like we're pretty comfortable playing with each other, just about predictability and kind of having something to prove, if that makes sense. Definitely 2 fun guys to play with.
Yeah. And I know there's some mixing and matching too, right? Because you can play in the middle and Furry plays in the middle. And so you've kind of gone back and forth a little bit, haven't you?
Yeah. So I know we've had a couple, like Nathan Smith left for the U.S., so we needed someone to fill in as a center. So I switched over to center, and then whenever we have injuries or something like that, sometimes I'll jump in the middle. But for the most part of this year, I think I've played on the left with Furry and Sandy.
Do you have a preference?
Center's a lot of work. If you would have asked me that going into last year, I'd say I'd rather play center. But right now, I think I'd say I'd rather play wing.
Yeah.
And I'm really open to either one. Your role's a little bit different, but it's really only in the D zone. And so when you're in the D zone, you're kind of responsible for more areas of the ice as a center versus as a wing. You're kind of just have your half of the ice.
Right.
So it's a little more freedom as a center because you can go everywhere, but it's definitely more skating. But I also like taking face-offs, so me and Furry will sometimes switch off with those, and I enjoy that part of it. Yeah,
with the rule change last year, with the just the warning for they don't throw guys out of the face-off circle as much anymore. So if you have a situation where a guy gets tossed out of the face-off circle, if you have 2 guys who can take face-offs, it's usually an advantage. It's pretty obvious, but now they don't. You don't see guys getting thrown out as much. They're trying to move that game along.
I kind of prefer when they throw guys out because one of the old tricks that I don't know who I learned it from, whether it was my dad or just past players and coaches, is when you're gassed, you go in, line up for a draw, intentionally get kicked out, maybe buy yourself an extra 10 seconds just to catch your breath if you're stuck out on icing or something like that.
Sure.
And then the warning is also just a little scary because sometimes they make debatable calls on who the warning should be on, and then I'm losing majority of the draws after I get a warning, just because I'd rather lose a draw than take a penalty. So
right, yeah, it's kind of a harsh penalty. I haven't seen a lot of penalties. Have you seen a penalty called on that this year?
I think we took one this year.
Yeah.
But I know that as all the centers or all the guys that take draws talk about it and are like, just lose the draw. Like, tell your winger if you see him, if he sees you get a warning, just know that you're jumping. You're probably losing it.
Yeah.
So
wow, interesting. It's I'm sure a lot of it's to move things along faster. I'm sure it's a way to tell the linesmen to move it along faster, because I remember years ago there would just be those linesmen who would just hold the puck and hold the puck and hold the puck, and to the point where the fans are getting antsy about it and everything else. And it always seemed like there was a little bit of gamesmanship between some officials and the players, where I think if you go to a game at Wisconsin, they'll all chant "drop the puck," basically. So because a linesman has been holding it too long. Yeah,
it's frustrating. That's the worst. You sit there on your toes just waiting to swipe at it, and sometimes they'll hold it for 3 swipes and still hasn't dropped.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah, no, it just doesn't seem like they have that opportunity to do that, because now they're looking to call because it's often the guy it seems like the guy who's calling the warning is the linesman dropping the puck. It's not necessarily the other one who, in previous, when they'd throw somebody out, sometimes it was that other linesman who was making that call.
I think the other linesman will a lot of times give you a warning if your wingers are too far in the circle.
Sure.
But for the most part, it's the guy dropping the puck that's calling them.
Yeah, well, that explains a little bit to me too. But, that's one of those rules where I think fans, it's really hard to know exactly what just happened and why it happened. And I know the players know, the coaches know, everybody down on the ice is paying close attention. But sometimes, when you're just kind of up, you're like, hey, come on, why aren't they just playing here?
Yeah, it's a small detail. And sometimes it's tough to see who jumps first, or you can't really see from the stands when he pump fakes a drop puck. You know what I mean? So sometimes it's tough to see.
Here we are talking face-offs on Maverick Hockey Live today with Sam Morton. Well, let's talk a little bit about your journey to get here. You're a Colorado native, and we mentioned that you started college at Union, but you played junior hockey previously and in between at Wenatchee. Is that right? In the
Correct.
BCHL. So I have to ask you. So you would have played for Chris Clark then? Was he? A former Maverick goaltender, former Maverick legend goaltender. I don't know how much you know about his college career, but he was kind of a cult figure here in Mankato for a long time because of some of the stuff he did on the ice.
Yeah, I've seen some videos of some stuff he's on Wenatchee too.
Yeah,
so. But no, he was an assistant coach my first 2 years there, and when I was thinking about going back to juniors and leaving Union, I was talking to Bliss Littler, the head coach, and I thought I was going back to play for him at the time, but I'm not sure exactly what. I think he was sick or something happened, and Chris Clark ended up stepping in as the head coach, as an interim head coach, and did a really good job. Like, I really enjoyed playing for him. It was definitely a different coach than I played for my first 2 years, just because he had to be the boss figure, right? And kind of hold people accountable more than previously. But because I had that relationship with him when he was an assistant coach, I felt like we were on pretty good terms just because we already knew each other and had an understanding. Yeah,
and just to let the audience know, or Sam know, and Chris Clark was the goaltender of record in the 2004 come from behind victory over Denver, in which the Mavericks were down 6-1 and 7-1, and came back and won 8-7. They made 2 goalie changes. Chris Clark was the third string goalie. He had never played in a Division I game before. He got inserted into the game, and the Mavericks mounted this great comeback. That was a 10-win Mavericks team, and Denver went on and won the national championship that year. Just a crazy weekend of hockey. The night before was a 4-4 tie. David Backus tied the game up with less than 2 seconds left, I believe, in regulation. And then there was this great come from behind game the next night that's just kind of turned into like a legend. And Chris Clark being a guy who, I think the quote in the paper of the story I wrote, he said he didn't even know he was eligible to play because he was the third string goalie. He thought someone had to be injured.
I was surprised he never brought that one up.
I'm surprised he didn't either, but kind of the legend was born, and he ended up playing a lot of games, over his career here. and sharing a lot of time with a lot of other goalies, but a good guy and a guy the community really embraced. And I think he really embraced the community here too. So I'm glad you had the experience playing for him.
Yeah, he's a great coach. Good guy.
So talk a little bit about how you ended up in Mankato. I mean, did you know, you were at Union, I don't know if you can talk about the circumstance of you deciding that it was, you needed to go somewhere else, and how did that happen, and how did you end up here?
So I played with Lucas Souter. He also played on the Wenatchee team with me for the first 2 years that we were there. And I remember when he committed to Mankato, I didn't know a whole lot about it. And so he stayed for one more year at juniors while I was a freshman at Union. And then during my sophomore year, he was a freshman at Mankato. And I'd kept in touch with him. We were really good friends in Wenatchee, and he's my roommate now. But so I'd been keeping in touch with him, and he was having a lot of success as a freshman. And so I just kind of asked him, like, what's it like playing there? Just different questions, and it sounded very different than the experience that I was having. Okay. And it was definitely a place where I was like, oh, if this is a possibility, like, I'd really want to go to Mankato. So when I went back to Wenatchee, Todd Knott reached out to me pretty early on in my return to Wenatchee and showed some interest. And it didn't take a whole lot. I came out here and visited and really liked the facilities and the staff, the culture, the boys. And so it was a pretty easy decision to come here.
Sure. And I mean, that's certainly, you must be feeling pretty good about the way things have gone then. That's
one of my best decisions for sure.
Yeah. And we were just talking before we went on, started recording, that you're a junior, but given all the circumstances of when you started and stopped, and redshirt year and transfer year and COVID year, I mean, how many years do you have left after this one? Just the one?
So I got one more after this, and it's funny you say that. I remember last year, so we have to shoot those videos where it's like Sam Morton, Lafayette, Colorado, senior forward. And right now, I think my video still says senior forward. But if you look at the roster, it says I'm a junior. And that was because last year I was asking Luke, our hockey ops guy, I was like, hey, I don't know what year I am. This is last year. I'm like, am I a sophomore or am I a junior? And he's like, well, I don't think you can put sophomore because you played games at Union as a sophomore. And so I was like, okay, I'll put junior. And so naturally this year I was like, I don't think I can say junior again. So I was like, I said senior. I probably should have said junior, but no, when people ask me now, I'll say junior.
Sure.
And I think credits wise, I plan to graduate at the fall of next year. So I'll get a few master's classes done the spring of 23. But yeah, I guess hockey wise, I'm a junior.
Yeah, it's fun. It's just funny. I think the COVID year is going to throw everybody off, and I never know when I'm writing stories or talking, how to refer to Reggie Lutz and Jack McNeely.
Yeah.
I call them super seniors because
fifth years,
yeah, grad students. Right. They're not grad transfers like some guys. And,
right, it's a little confusing.
Yeah, but I think nobody really cares when you guys have won 33 games. So. What was it like growing up in Colorado playing hockey? Is that something you started at a young age, and where in Lafayette, Colorado, is that? So, where is that?
So I grew up in Benicia, California until I was 13.
Okay.
And that's just in the Bay Area. And I actually started playing because my dad's a hockey junkie and decided to build a roller rink just a couple blocks down from my house. And so I initially grew up playing roller hockey. It was an outdoor rink. And I think I joined a little inline league that my dad put together throughout our community and had some fun with it. My brother also played, so we would just go mess around at nights and just kind of play one-on-one or shoot some pucks. And then when I was 6, I joined an ice hockey team, like Mites or Mini Mites or something in California. And then by the time I turned 13, just for job reasons, my parents decided we were moving to Colorado.
Okay.
And Colorado hockey, I think, is better than California hockey for the most part, just in terms of traveling. Because in the Bay Area, you can play for the San Jose Sharks, and that's really your only AAA team that's within driving distance, and that's still an hour from where I lived. And so when I moved to Colorado, I started on a AA team that was just 5 minutes away from my house. And then when I was 14, joined the Thunderbird team, which is down in Denver, and they had a good program. And so that's when I kind of started to think, okay, like maybe I can go play juniors somewhere or try to pursue playing college hockey. So I kind of got away from the roller side of things and committed fully to ice, and then kind of jumped ship around in Colorado. I played for the Thunderbirds, and I went and played for their rival, the Rough Riders, for a year, and then I went back to the Thunderbirds, and then got recruited to go play in Wenatchee.
Okay. And you played how many years in Wenatchee before going to Union?
So when I was 17, I played in Wenatchee, and then I played the following year when I was 18.
Okay.
And then went into Union the year after that.
Gotcha. You have a few guys on your team who've started off playing roller hockey. Nathan Smith and I were talking about it. I assume Lucas might have done it the same in Florida, with both Nathan and Lucas Sauter being Florida natives. I know some other players in the past were Matt Leitner, who, All-American player, was played some roller hockey in Southern California where he grew up. Obviously, it's just kind of fun to see. But how do those skills transfer, and how do they don't, from roller hockey to ice hockey in your mind?
Roller's fun. Roller's hockey without a lot of the hard work that you have to do on the ice. Because you don't have to stop and start. You're just kind of turning around. There's no contact. It's really just a lot of skill. And so I think the biggest thing that translates is just like stick handling ability, because the skating's a little bit different. So it's not like your edges are the same in roller as they are on ice, but you're handling the puck the same way. So I think like stick handling and hands translates the most. And to add on to what, I think because hockey's diversified so much, I don't know, like for me, it feels like the past 20 years or 15 years, there's been a lot of studs coming out of Florida or California.
Sure, absolutely.
So I think we're just hearing about it more, and the more youth programs that are started, the more opportunity that kids get to transfer from roller over to ice. So I think that's been a big difference.
When's the last time you put on a pair of inlines? And
last summer.
Yeah.
We'll go. I haven't played in a roller hockey game per se in a long time, but we'll put our skates on and just either skate around to stay in shape, or we had a dog last summer, so we'd skate the dog around, or I don't know, just something to do that's active over the summer and kind of engage your hockey muscles. It
seems like it could be kind of fun if you guys played a little summer tournament or something like that.
I think it'd be super fun.
Yeah.
We'd do it back home. Like I had some buddies who would play high school in Colorado, and we'd try to have little reunions and just go to the roller rink and mess around for a couple hours.
I mean, you just don't see it that often, and it almost surprises me in Minnesota that you don't see it in the summers, because the rinks are so full. There's so many rinks, and they're so full all winter long, and every community talks about wanting more ice, needing more ice, and clearly, there's a lot of summer hockey as well, summer ice hockey. But I'm surprised there aren't a few more inline, whether they're playing on an outdoor basketball court somewhere, or they actually have like a sport court type of setup going on. I'm almost surprised you just don't see that in this area, just for the same reason. It makes sense in California, and there are fewer ice rinks, but also, summers here, people are looking to play. I think.
I mean, I remember thinking how spoiled people in Minnesota are in Canada, because they have the lakes in the winter to skate on. And now I'm more appreciative that I had the roller rinks, you know what I mean? Because it's just as much fun. Like, I've played on the lakes a few times, and it's a great experience, but it's pretty much the same thing as playing roller hockey. So I'm also surprised that there's not more people on the roller rinks here.
Do you get guys asking you about it a little bit too? Like different players who didn't grow up with the roller side of things and wondering about it or curious about it?
Not so much that. I think it's more the kids from Minnesota are like, have you ever skated on a lake? And I'm like, yeah. So it's more about the lakes than the roller rinks.
Sure. And I mean, obviously that's pretty unique here as well. But yeah, I mean, just trying to find ways to play and wherever you can. And even people who just play floor hockey or boot hockey or anything like that, it's you realize how fun a sport it is, just in different ways.
That just brings, when it's a social thing, as much as it is competitive, I think that really brings the fun out of it.
So, got a few minutes left here. Just going forward, you should say the Mavericks play on Saturday night coming up against Northern Michigan in a single game semifinal for the CCHA playoffs, for the Mason Cup playoffs, a rematch of last year's semifinal game, which I know no one likes to think backwards too much, but I'm sure that's a game that probably it was not the top moment for you guys losing that game to Northern Michigan. I'm sure that probably sticks in your craw a little bit.
Yeah, it's a rematch. I think all the returners have a little fire burning under them, and we're definitely thinking about it a little bit because it's our opportunity to kind of make things right from last year in the WCHA tournament. So we're super excited for it. We know they're going to bring their best. They have some confidence because of what they did last year, and we're in similar spots going into this game as we were last year. So I think both ways it's going to be a really good hockey game, and whoever's more prepared is going to come out on top.
Yeah, and I think those teams are dangerous, right? I mean, Northern Michigan, who's played teams tough, they went on the road and they won at Lake Superior State in 3 games last weekend. You guys are a lock for the NCAA tournament. Northern Michigan, kind of looking at Michigan Tech, who finished second. They'll host Bemidji State in the other semifinal. They are, I don't know if they're a lock for the NCAA tournament, but they're in a pretty good spot, which makes, Bemidji and Northern Michigan, pretty dangerous, I would think, because they have to win the tournament to get in. And just like Lake Superior State did last year, winning in Mankato, the WCHA tournament, which was all here because of COVID. So, I mean, you got to watch out for those teams because they nothing to lose on their minds.
It's really hard to end someone's season. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's gonna be competitive. They got everything to lose, right? So,
yeah, and it should be fun. I assume you'll have a big crowd. I know it's spring break right now. The students will probably be maybe filtering back. It's nice that it's a single game on a Saturday night. People getting back to town. Hopefully, they'll be getting back a little early so they can be in the stands and have a pretty good crowd for that playoff game.
Yeah, it's unbelievable playing at home. Not just so much for the boards, but really for the fans too. They get us going, and it's super exciting when we're doing the opening lineup and it's loud and it's full and everyone's standing up. So it's easier for us to get energy that way. We don't have to build it straight from the bench. We can kind of build off of the environment that the building has.
All right. Well, Sam Morton, best of luck against the Wildcats next weekend and going forward in the playoffs.
Thanks, Jim.
Absolutely, and I will leave it at that. Thank you for tuning in and listening to the Maverick Hockey Live podcast presented by Duncan. That's Sam Morton. I'm Shane Frederick, and we will talk to you next week.